Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Oh, sorry about that. I am Kris. This is part two, the Pashtun leader who peacefully defied the British Empire from Al Jazeera. I almost said Algier again. From Al Jazeera, world documentary. We already did part one, so obviously I already said this is part two. You can click that thumbs up for me and subscribe to the channel. That helps out tremendously. Just a request. You probably won't do it. You can also donate to the channel through the thanks button. Request a video, your name sponsoring that video. You can still request without. This was a request. You just don't get that extra shout out. Okay? So we're going to do another 15-ish minutes and we'll go from there.
The 4 years of the First World War gave Bacha Khan the time and opportunity to develop a strategy to oppose British rule. He also used the time to start a family.
Apologize, my phone was ringing.
Bacha Khan had two wives. His first wife was named Meher Kanda, and from that wife he had three children. The first child was Ghani Khan, and the second child was Wali Khan, and the third child was a female lady called Sardaro, who died at an infant age due to epidemic of influenza. Then he married to his second.
Influenza. Was this the 1918 Spanish flu that went around the world? Was that around that time? I'm just guessing. He would have been, no. He'd have been 28. Should have been later in life. So I'm going to say no.
He was married to a second wife whose name was Nambata, and from Nambata he had two children, Ali Khan and Meher Taj.
It was unfortunate that the first wife died because she got ill, and of course, at that time, the health services and systems were not like what they are today. And the second one died on his journey to Hajj, which was a very long journey, and she fell down the steps and died. I think it was in Jerusalem.
Afterwards, he did not marry, and he contributed his whole entire life for the struggle and the uplift of our society and community.
The British government, meanwhile, introduced new legislation to combat what it saw as the rise of nationalist and anti-British activity in its Indian colonies. In March 1919, it passed the Rowlatt Act, which gave the police the power to arrest anyone for any reason, and introduced indefinite detention without trial.
What the hell kind of law is that? You can arrest anyone at any time for any reason? Yeah. That seems legit. Arrest anyone at any time for any reason. Well, glad we have that law in the books. Jeez. Bit of a dick move on that one.
This triggered unrest a month later in the Punjab city of Amritsar.
1919, this is one of the very crucial years. India was going through very hard times. The Indians, they helped Raj during the war years, and they were expecting reward. They received something which they did not expect. This was the two Rowlatt Act bills. The Indians, they were shocked. Then the tragic incident of Jallianwala Bagh on 13th April in Amritsar, wherein the imperialist forces, they fired upon the locals who gathered in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar. More than 400 people were killed. The whole India was now upset over these two incidents. So the hartals, protest meetings, they were arranged in the whole of India in the major centers. In Charsadda, however, a huge crowd assembled, and the person who was supposed to address, he disappeared because of the fear of English. And then Abdul Ghaffar Khan, he was invited to make a speech. And this was his first speech to such a huge gathering. The gathering was more than 50,000 people.
But Shah Khan's profile grew. By the early 1920s, he was running a network of Islamic schools while at the same time organizing Pashtuns to peacefully oppose British colonialism.
Just like a competent doctor, he just recommended. He just recommended that there is a disease, and that disease is ignorance and illiteracy. Later on, in 1921, he formed, along with his friends, Anjuman-e-Islah Farina, the Association for the Reformation of the Afghans.
And the second thing was the Azad schools, Azad Madaras.
Look at this guy. This guy. He looks like he's panicking. Hurry up. This guy has either never had his picture taken or he has to use the bathroom and he's trying to tell the guy, I gotta go, hurry it up. Sorry, buddy, I didn't see you behind me. This guy, what a beard on him. I mean, look at the mustache. I can't grow a mustache like that. Oh, it's got I would be tickling my nose. That's a good beard too. He's got the little curl in the mustache. The little, is it the handlebar? Oh my goodness, look at that guy's mustache. I mean, to be fair, this guy right here, that's amateur hour. Look at that mustache. I'm admiring mustaches and beards. This guy, though. Just it's the eyes that get me. Hurry it up. I gotta poo. All right.
To be run by the Anjuman members. The love of education, creation of love of education, this was the main objective of the Anjuman members. Then promotion of Pashto language and literature, getting rid of the slavery, and obviously doing away with the feuds among the Pashtuns.
The Afghan Reform Society, the Anjuman-e-Islah Afghani, grew in size and influence. In 1927, Bacha Khan formed another group, the Pashtun Jirga, or Pashtun Assembly, a youth reform group. Then 2 years later, he founded the eclectic Servants of God.
The problem was that they had made it clear that this organization is for youth and the educated youth. So now what to do with many other volunteers who were uneducated and who have crossed, say, 50 or 60. So to accommodate all these, in November 1929, another organization was formed. And this was given the name of Khudai Khidmatgar Organization, Khudai Khidmatgar Tahrik, or the Servants of God.
Its main characteristic was that it was not communal. It was not only for the Pashtuns, it was not only for Muslims, it was for all the communities living in the Northwest Frontier Province.
Molding public opinion in favor of non-violence in a society which was violence-ridden society, and always talks of martial race, then swordsmanship. These were very much talk of the day in this area, and then telling people, convincing them to renounce violence, to keep or go away with gun.
Khan's strategy of nonviolence was also advocated by Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of peaceful resistance to British rule in the rest of India.
That's why Mr. Gandhi would say,
That makes sense as to why he's doing the nonviolent thing. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. It'd be hard to have somebody who is coming up this way and going the opposite way of Gandhi. I could see that clearly being an influence as a decision. That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
That I didn't do a great task by converting Hindus to nonviolence because they already believed in nonviolence. But he said, you by converting Pashtuns to nonviolence is a great feat.
By 1929, Bacha Khan had founded 3 groups which all opposed British colonial rule in different ways. As these groups grew and became more vocal, the colonial rulers in the Pashtun areas of northwest British India became increasingly concerned at the spread of Bacha Khan's influence. A backlash against him seemed almost inevitable. Abdul Ghaffar Khan was a Pashtun leader in the northwest of British colonial India. He's better known as Bacha Khan, which translates from Pashto as King of Chiefs. He led a peaceful resistance movement in the early 20th century, when people across India challenged British colonial rule to gain independence. Bacha Khan fought for change not through violence but by championing education and by refusing to accept British colonial laws. He founded a peaceful protest movement, the Servants of God, which put him on a direct collision course with the British. Bacha Khan knew Mahatma Gandhi, who also advocated non-violent protest. Both leaders were imprisoned by the British.
Must have been for all the violence they were committing. Hey, you guys, we need you to do something. No. Well, we got to arrest them. They were refusing. Clearly, they're violent people.
Bacha Khan always convinced people that if you want to educate your future, just give a book, just give a kalam to their hand, not weapon. And he always says that if someone targeted, you don't target with weapon, just target with books and just target with your knowledge and education.
Bacha Khan's vision for reforming the education system was to give an alternate educational system to Pashtuns, to Muslims of this part of the world against the British colonial system education. There were 2 kind of institutions. The public sector schools were producing servants to the Britishers. And against them, Bacha Khan, Sanatam Dharam and Khalisa schools wanted to produce sons of the soil, which can serve their own soil and not the Britishers.
And according to the census reports available, 1911 census report, 1921, etc., out of 1,000, only 25 were literate. And when you come to the women, it was 10 reported literate out of 1,000.
All the schools, the Azad High School established by Bacha Khan and his companions were present in the whole within NWFP, which was comprised of the 5 districts, settled districts. The number of schools were 134 at that time, and there were 9,000 students studying in those schools at that time. In the system of the government, there were only 4,500 students. And that is why it increased the literacy ratio. So in 1931, the literacy ratio increased by 0.9, which was phenomenal at that time.
Education was just one platform of the Servants of God movement led by Bacha Khan. its numbers swelled to over 100,000 Pashtuns, all pledged to use civil disobedience to challenge British rule. Khan traveled across the northwest region through towns and villages to spread the message of peaceful resistance.
This was mainly by foot. Of course, at that time, in the 20s, 30s, transport wasn't like it was today. He did, of course, when he did long travels, like to meetings and things, he would go by train to different cities in what is now Pakistan and also to India. But him and his companions did a lot of traveling by foot. They stayed in very sort of, minimalist places. They kept to having simple food and not being a burden to the places that they visited. And that is what was powerful about him, his direct contact with his people.
During his mission, going from village to village, he will choose the home of the person who was the most poor amongst them. And he would choose his house, and they used to be very excited and happy about it, that Bacha Khan is going to be my guest and staying at my home. So everyone, all his followers, everyone who used to come to listen to them would come to that same fellow house and sit there with him, share all what he has to share with him. So even this was a sort of social recognition for the poor people, poor community, that he would inculcate values of humanity into them.
He used to go to Sindh, he used to Balochistan. And once he traveled to Karachi, to GM Said's place in a third class. That was their principle. They used to travel in a third class, which had wooden benches.
In Pashtun society, what we call hospitality or milmastya. Now, of course, hospitality is a good thing, but he feels that whenever guests come, there is extra economic pressure on the household. He himself, when he traveled with his companions for his spreading his political message, he used to not encourage that people slaughter chickens and cook food and do all this. He wanted it to be very simple, and he felt the burden fell on women, who, he said, never ate with the family, and they ate what was left over. And he said that I was the first one who said to my wife that you come and sit and eat with us, and she was very, very uncomfortable with this because she was not used to this.
Many of the people Khan met on his travels joined Khudai Khidmatgar, the servants of God. Members swore an oath to both uphold the group's principles of nonviolence and to stand with the oppressed against the colonial oppressor. They wore uniforms suggesting a form of military discipline, but with a key difference. Khudai Khidmatgar did not carry guns.
Yeah, you can't. You can't be nonviolent and carry guns, because they're going to look at that. The British are going to look at that first and foremost. Oh, they're nonviolent, but they have guns. So that's going to trigger instant response of violence from the British side to them.
Bacha Khan was of the view that...
I just realized I said that's going to trigger violence. Didn't mean to phrase it like that, but that's going to induce violence. You understand what I'm saying?
I could not unite and I could not organize the people without having a certain kind of discipline. So that's why his Khudai Khidmatgar were given certain ranks on the pattern of military. So it was a kind of an organized army, but unarmed.
Okay, that's part 2. We're going to end it there, and we will be back to go ahead and finish the entire video. It should just be, another 15 minutes. But don't really have much to add. I'm going to end this. I got to grab something, and then I'm going to sit right back down and finish the video. So until I come back, for you, it'll be tomorrow. But for me, it'll be in about 10 seconds. But until then, have a good day, have a good night.